we're going to get into the sorts of rebuttals that our good friend Daryl mentioned: the denial, embracing the term, sarcasm, or to educate. So first we're going to jump into is denial. If the person that you call an anti-white denies that they are anti-white, that means that you have won. Does that make sense? Does everybody know why that it means that you have won the conversation? It means that you have won because they are now on your field. They are now in your context. They are discussing the matter by your rules. It's no longer in the rules of the anti-whites. It's no longer within their window of debate. Okay, so that's why you've already won the debate. As soon as they deny being anti-white, you have won the debate. The next thing is that it means is that to one degree or another, they are receptive to the argument for white well-being. Now, it could be a tiny bit, and it could be a great bit. In the moment, it's almost assuredly going to be a very little bit of change will be able to take place. In the long run, it can be a big change. So you have to craft your arguments, and you have to craft your tone so that it is built to convert this person from being anti-white to serving white well-being. Does that make sense? So does anybody have an example? Like if you're talking to a friend, you're very welcome, Jilly Storm, for that. Looks like we have a super chat over on Streamlabs. Putang Slayer super chatted with $2 over on Streamlabs. Many on our side say racism is a meaningless anti-white slur. But one time I attended a football match where the audience were taunting a black player and with mockery noises and throwing bananas at him. Is the term valid to describe situations like that? Is what term valid? The term racism valid? Is that what you're asking? The concept racist and racism is a tool of white oppression. It is never valid. If those people were taunting a person and mocking a person, then it is those things. We can say we already say that taunting is bad. There's racial consciousness. Great to see you, brother. We already say that taunting is bad, that mocking is bad. Do not use a term of white oppression, because by using it, you validate it. It is an anti-white slur. Never say the word racist. Never say racism. So back to the notes briefly before we see if there are any more comments. And that is, we have here, if someone denies being anti-white, they are receptive to your argument of white well-being. Now, if they start off quite hostile, you can be a little bit more aggressive. If they start off and they're kind of wishy-washy, they're not hardcore, maybe they're just virtue signaling, take it a little bit easier on them. When you say that they're anti-white and they deny that they're anti-white, then what you do, and this is where it comes, you either go like a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more easy on them, is you point out the behaviors and ideas that they're sharing that are anti-white and are therefore the reason you called them anti-white. Does that make sense? So if somebody says, well, it's good to bring all of these other groups into the country because XYZ, we should keep the borders open, you say, and they're maybe passive about it, they're just repeating what they heard on the news, you say, well, actually, that's pretty anti-white. That's an anti-white position. And they say, well, no, I'm not anti-white, though. And you could say, well, if you hold an anti-white position, I think that makes you anti-white, and then maybe a little laugh or something. And then you say, well, it's anti-white. Your position's anti-white because, and then maybe you share a couple of reasons and you take it easy. If you have somebody that's being a little bit more aggressive, like I was describing the young lady earlier who came in and is just like, you're a racist. And I just came back with, you're anti-white. And I aggressively went at her with, only anti-whites use this term. And so you identify yourself as anti-white. You're too much of a coward to say the same of non-white groups? Would you say the same of blacks? Would you say the same of Jews? Remember, hypocrisy for a white person who is not viscerally anti-white is something that's very uncomfortable, and they'll want to back away from that position. Remember, again, the whole time you're keeping in the back of your mind, is there going to be an audience for this conversation? Is there an audience right now? Are other people listening? Is it a group of people standing around? Is it in a chat like this, live chat? Is there going to be an audience in the future? Is this on a thread and people are going to read it in the coming weeks and months, years? If so, if this is not a private conversation, you want to craft your responses in part, and it can be in large part, depending on the person you're conversating with, to those readers, to those listeners. Does that make sense? You want to keep in mind that you want to win them over to white well-being. This person now that you're having this discussion with is a foil. You want to use them to get the message of white well-being across, to get the message of anti-white across to the readers. Does that make sense? I need you all to be empowered with this information. I need you to own it, to learn it and own it and apply it everywhere you go. There will be if there will be an audience, you craft your conversation specifically to sell white well-being, using that person that you're speaking with as a foil, to sell white well-being, to teach about anti-whiteism to that audience. There are going to be far more people in that audience, if there is going to be an audience, than that audience of one that you're talking to. So you want to craft your conversation to those people largely. Okay. Hello back, Misty. Ryan Manley, another great one. See, so many great people. I appreciate and cherish all of you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so that is how you handle the I'm not a racist. I mean, I'm not the reverse. I'm not anti-white. Are there any questions relative to a person denying being anti-white? Any other questions about that? And we can move on to the second of the four.